meet the candidates tonight with the contested races in the upcoming May 6th primary. Tonight we'll be talking to candidates, both Democratic and Republican, for County Council District 1 and the sheriff's race. Those are the only two contested county races this year that you will see on the May ballot. For those of you in Waterloo Township, however, on the Republican ballot, you have a choice for state senator. Alan Paul, the longtime Senate District 27 candidate, senator, is retiring. He served his last days in the Senate just a few days ago. And so we have four Republican candidates, Eric Atkinson, Jeff Rates or Rats, I'm not sure how that's pronounced, Doug Williamson, and Bruce Whistle, seeking the Republican nomination to run against Democratic candidate Jerome Jake Hogue for that vacant seat. Waterloo Township was moved into District 27 with the redistricting 2 years ago, and so they are the only ones in Fayette County represented by that district. Every other township is represented by State Senator Gene Leising. So we will have from District 1 the candidates on the Democratic side are Jim Wolf and David Dever. On the Republican side, Howard Price and Leota King. And we're starting off first with the Democratic candidates. Democratic County Party Chairman Tim Rose stopped by the office this morning and said, unfortunately, Jim Wolf had something come up and he will not be able to attend tonight. He sends his regrets that he can't make it, but we do have David Dever. Most people know him as Dave, and you see his truck around town a lot. It's got his name on it. Yeah. So Dave, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're seeking this office.
Well, it's funny you brought up Dave on my truck. A lot of people want to know why Dave is on there. And if you notice, there's so many of those white trucks in town, I'm afraid I'm getting the wrong truck, so that's why the name's on there. Anyhow, I was born in Fayette County here and graduated from Connersville High School in 1954. Served 2 years in the regular Army and 2 years in the Ready Reserves, 2 years in reserves, so it was a total of 6 years military service time. I'm a member of St. Gabriel Community, Knights Columbus, have belonged to them for 50 years. Married Mary Alice. We have three children and 5 grandchildren. We've been married 53 years this year, and so we have had a great life in Connersville and Fayette County, and that's one of the reasons that I'm interested in government, not politics, but government more than anything. I was a member of the City Council for 12 years, a member of the County Council for 8 years, and I served one term as County Commissioner. I also was 15 years as a salesman for Powell Real Estate as a real estate salesman. I worked at Roots Connersville Blower Company, which now is GE, 38 years. Started in as helper and ended up as superintendent of the shop when I retired. One of the main things that I always liked in the government service was to look into working with people in the courthouse, the highway department, and treating everybody fairly and trying to spend the tax dollar wisely. I really am one that is very, very interested in preventive maintenance. That was basically one of the things I was brought up in the factory, preventive maintenance. It's always good to catch those things when they're small and not wait till they're so large that it's astronomical to make the payments and to foot the bill on it. So that is the main thing that I'm interested in. I'm interested in a lot of things that are going on today. Some of the things that are going on today, I don't know that much about. I've tried to read as much as I can, but unless you have hands-on, you really just don't realize what the situation is. I've been before the cameras here before with Mr. Smith for a few years, probably started the same time on when they started this TV program. So anyways, I do look forward to running in this campaign. I look forward to your vote, and I would appreciate anything you could do to help me.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's get started with, I don't know if they're tough questions or not, but we'll find out. The commissioners are the ones that establish the capital improvement plan for spending on the economic development income tax revenue. And as it is right now, the county is using some of that money for other things. Is it right, and is it fair to the city of Connersville and to the town of Glenwood for the county to use that edit money to put a roof on the jail and other projects like that, which lowers the amount of money that can be distributed to the city of Connersville and to Glenwood?
Well, that's a very good question, because it does look like it's quite unfair. And there again, you've got to be right on top of it and see exactly what the situation is. Glenwood seems to get very little. The city, same way. I think I forget exactly what the figures are. That may be over $500,000, and the city only got to get 150 or something like that there. But anyhow, it's something that could be looked at and maybe studied by both entities, like your city and county both, and see if there isn't maybe what some would think a fairer outlay of the money. Right now, I'm not that close to it that I'd be able to really make a firm comment on it.
Okay, I didn't know whether you remembered something from your days past or not. So, moving on, what are your thoughts on the Economic Development Group and the amount of funding they receive from the county through the capital improvement plan?
Well, I think Economic Development Group, if I remember right here lately, it has been cut, the finances, according to what they were when I was commissioner before. I don't know what the reasons are behind it, but sometimes it makes you wonder whether we're both on the same page. Personalities enter into some of these things. I know you know that, Darrell, as well as I do, that we just got to do better and work together. If you don't work together, you may as well give it all up and say, well, heck with it. What are the alternatives? So I'm for looking into these things and working with the people and make sure that we get the most bang for our buck. So.
Okay, with the city of Connersville obviously making the news recently with their announcement of the emergency, financial emergency. We know Fayette County government had to cut several employees a year ago. What would be your thoughts on combining of services such as maybe the city street department and county highway department as a way to save a little bit of money?
Well, I've thought this out kind of seriously, and I've always, it's kind of what you're speaking of as Unigov, in a sense, is with combining services and stuff. Right now, both entities don't have enough equipment to do the job, as you can mainly see through the streets and stuff like that there. I just can't see it working together, and then who is going to call the shots on who gets the machinery, who gets the work done today and tomorrow. It seems to work fairly decent right now, and like I say, I know that we're short on some machinery and stuff like that there, but if you put it all together, I just don't believe it will work. It's just like Unigov. If Unigov was so good, why hasn't a whole lot of other cities and counties went to Unigov? I'm willing to work with the city, but I don't think combining them and going into one entity there would be of much value to the people of Connersville or Fayette County.
Okay. Shifting a little further out into the county, there have been issues in the past with farmers trying to expand their agricultural operations to allow their children to remain on the farm and live in this county. What are your thoughts on expansion of agricultural operations, including animal agriculture? Because the zoning issues will have to come before the commissioners.
Well, I've always thought that a lot of the problems that I see in the years going by is that, CAFOs and things like that there, and what some of the big complaints are that some of the homeowners here are getting smell from the cattle, from the farm, and so forth. And I always looked at it from this standpoint. In my days, farmers were farmers, and they farmed. They had cattle, they had pigs, and so forth. And as me as a city slicker wanting to go to the county to get out of congestion and stuff, I guess I got to accept some of that. I don't think it's right that, me going out there and complaining all the time about the smell of that farmer's field. I know that when I go out there, I'm going to get the problem. So, to me, I think it's, I like the idea of the farmland. Kids like to go out there and go over it. So, I don't know about confined feedment and stuff. I've been some of those places, and some of them work pretty nice. Some of them aren't grouped around a whole lot of stuff, but some of ours have been put in since the smaller towns or communities have existed there, and that's what the problem is, putting them in now. Prior to, people didn't complain so much because they knew when they went out there they were going to have a problem because it was already there. So.
And a little bit back on funding, seems like the feds and the state government keep pushing mandates down to you, and they never send money to the counties. You probably experienced that on the council and as commissioner before. How you make ends meet?
Tough. That's your call.
Because you have a limited amount of ability to increase revenue.
You're talking about unfunded mandates, and they do that, and sometimes you wonder if they really know that they're putting that kind of a hardship on the counties or the cities, either one. But it's tough. It's tough. You just gotta make every move count. You gotta be able to save money, because down the road you may need it. I remember 8 years ago when I was on the county commissioner board, I said, things don't look as good as they should. We ought to start saving and economizing and maybe combining and doing sort of things like that. And I was told at that time, you're yelling wolf. Well, the wolf wasn't so woofy, And, that's no pun on Mike.
On Jim.
On Jim Wolf, I'm sorry. Jim's a good guy. But that...
Yeah. Okay, well, if got anything else you want to say, kind of a last-minute plea to the voters?
Well, I certainly would love to serve again for another term. It's seeming that some people wonder, have asked me, why you want to get into this mess again? Well, it's not really a mess to me. I enjoy doing this sort of thing. There's so many things you learn, and the more you can learn, the better off you're going to be, and you're never too old to learn. And I'm ready to give it a heck, and I'll get a heck. Then I expect that, But, Lord, if you don't have some good comments with some bad, you're not doing your job.
Well, thank you very much, Dave. We talked about the Senate district in Waterloo Township. Everybody in Fayette County will be voting actually this fall for State Representative District 55. Glenn Bailey, the Democrat, is challenging incumbent Republican Cindy Meyer-Zemke. She is just finished her first term. And when we come back, we will have the Republican candidates for Commissioner District 1. And whichever one of you, Jim or Dave, wins the Democratic nomination on May 6th, why they'll be facing either Leota King or Howard Price from the Republican side come November. And we will be back in just a moment.
I am for the child who's had 7 addresses in a single year because she's in foster care, because her father abused her, and her mother couldn't believe her. She is the child I am for. I am a CASA volunteer. I am you.
I've been hearing about a new law requiring voters to present a photo ID.
I wasn't sure exactly what that meant for me.
In most cases, an Indiana driver's license, Indiana ID card, U.S. passport, or military ID card will work.
I have a photo ID, but I know someone who didn't, so I helped them get a free one from the BMV.
I helped my neighbor get a free photo ID. Now we're both ready for Election Day. Are you?
Visit photoid.in.gov. This message brought to you by the Indiana Secretary of State and the Help America Vote Act.
What?
John, you gonna be ready to kill? Yes.
And we're back. We'll be talking now with the Republican candidates for the County Commissioner District 1, seeking the nomination to run for the seat in the fall elections. We have Leota King and Howard Price. And so, Leota, since you're closest to me, why don't you start? Tell me a little bit about yourself and why you're seeking the office.
I'm Leota King, and I've lived in Fayette County for quite a while. Grew up out in Brownsville, Union County.
And tell us a little bit about your family.
I have 4 children, 3 boys and 1 girl. My oldest son, Jerry, served in the military 20 plus years. He's now working at Fort Gordon and is Chief of Knowledge Systems for the 7th Signal Corps and works for the Department of Defense, so he's still in the military. He likes that Army life. I have a granddaughter, Mariah, and she's full-time National Guard and has been for 13 years. My second son, Alan, has been around here. He sold office supplies, and now he works for Inskeep Ford in Greenfield. Dana's a technician for CVS Pharmacy over in Rushville, and Brent works for a residential CRF here in Connersville. I have 11 grandchildren, 11 great-grandchildren.
Well, that keeps you busy.
I spent all day yesterday playing with 2 of the great-grandkids.
Oh, that's a tough job.
1 7 and 1 8. They're interesting little boys.
And Howard?
I'm Howard Price. I was born in Fayette, Connersville, Indiana, many years ago. I graduated from Clarksville High School, which is near Louisville, Kentucky. I have 2 children. My son Dale, he's a police officer in Edgewater, New Jersey, and my daughter works in the library at the same city. And I have a granddaughter. She's 5 years old now. I served 21 years, a little more than that, in the United States Air Force. I was equipment, pavements, and ground superintendent at Edwards Air Force Base, California, when I retired. I worked at the County Highway Department as supervisor for nearly 17 and a half years. And even though I haven't been a lifelong resident of Connersville and Fayette County, I've always considered it my home since I was born here. And both my older son, or brother, and sister graduated from Connersville High School.
Okay, thank you. The commissioners, and if you're elected commissioner, you will be helping to establish the capital improvement plan for spending economic development income tax revenue. is it right and fair for to the city of Connersville and to the town of Glenwood for the county to use money to put, say, a roof on the jail or other large projects, thus lowering the amount of money, amount of funds distributed to Connersville and Glenwood? Over the past several years, the amount of money that Connersville and Glenwood have received has significantly gone down. So, Howard, I guess it's your turn to go first.
Well, most of the taxes, the economic development was enacted by the county council, and the city and Glenwood share in that. And while their portions may be smaller, it may be something that in the future could be looked at. But I believe that since the county council had taken the step to enact the tax in order to improve our economic outlook, I think maybe the county has a little more hand in its spending.
Leota?
I really am not sure about the economic development tax. I do feel like the county has the initial, or as Howard said, the initiative to do what they wish with it, and it's made for economic development in a way that would help better the county, and the city is part of the county, so when the county receives the money, it helps the city, and the jail is used by both entities, so putting a roof on the jail helps the city as much as it does the county. This past year, the money from the economic development was used to put utilities, and there'd be no lights or heat or water or anything else at the jail or the courthouse if they hadn't used the economic development funds that they had. And they're trying to keep from having the county in the same state that the city is in.
Okay. Leota, you'll go first on this one. Since we're on economic development, kind of just what's your general thoughts on the economic development group and the amount of funding they receive?
Well, I feel it's really too sad that they haven't received more money in the last few years. I'm very excited over the fact that we have a new economic development director that's concerned about Fayette County. He grew up here and he's been a real good member of our community. Just really thrilled that Dan Parker is going to be our new EDG director, and expect to see some great things because he's going to sell Connersville. He's not going to be working to step up. Several EDG directors that we've had have used Connersville for a stepping stone to bigger and better things, and Dan won't do that. He's here for the rest of his life, so that'll be good for our community. And I work at Issues and Answers part-time and do political polls. Find this very interesting because they ask about questions to people. If you elect a member to Congress, and they give about 10 items, what do you want? Infrastructure, taxes, and they go on with several different things. And what is the most important? And I've asked these questions to many people all over the United States in the last year and a half. So I looked at those questions, and the one that comes up is, what about the economics, the economy, and jobs? And that's where it all goes back to, Daryl. If we don't have a good economy and we don't have jobs, then we're hurting as a community. It hurts Fayette County and it hurts Connersville. If you have jobs and you bring people in, then you're going to have a bigger tax base. You don't have to raise taxes because you've got more people paying taxes. And that's just a very important part of what we need in this community. And they don't have to be factory jobs. They could be different things. I tried several years ago to get them to talk to the Hartford when they were looking for a place for a claims base. We have a high school out here that does great work and has all these young kids that are coming out that are good with bookkeeping and computers and technology. And they could file claims, and we could have a claim center here. We don't need Great Highway from I-70 for that kind of a product. We need the internet and telephone service, and we have that. And we have a great work pool in the kids that come out of our schools.
Okay. Howard?
Well, the Economic Development Group has done good work. You know, Wayzata is now working up at the old Vistion building. I also read with interest in the paper this week about the overall picture from this economic individual. And one of the things that Connersville seems to lack in helping draw people to the community is a good quality of life aspect in town. We are close to Cincinnati, Indianapolis, Dayton, but we also need to improve our overall infrastructure. We need to sell ourselves as a great bedroom community, and I think maybe that's something that we've kind of overlooked at the economic development level. It's great to go out and advertise for companies to locate here, but we need to sell them on the quality of life as well and make them want to really move to this community and be a part of the community. Connersville has a lot to offer. We just need to work on it and sell it.
Okay, thank you. Well, it's been mentioned that about the economic problems at the city, and Fayette County government had to lay off several people a year and a half ago. So they also have some budget issues. What would be your thoughts on combining services such as the street department and the county highway department? Howard, it's your turn.
This is an area that's been talked about in the past when I was supervisor. And even though one is called the street department and the other called the county highway department, there are significant differences between the two departments that would make it kind of difficult to merge those. And if a merger did occur, as was mentioned previously, who gets the lion's share of the work, who manages the departments, and you have so many issues of the unions that work together. And I'm just not sure that this community is large enough to merge our departments. When you speak of Unigov, as Dave Dever has, usually the town or the city is the larger entity in a county, such as Indianapolis or maybe Evansville, which has been discussing the similar mergers. But we're just not that size here, and I'm not so sure that we would save any significant funds by doing any mergers.
Okay, Leota?
I've thought for a long time that Unigov might work in Fayette County. And the reason is because you could eliminate some of the county positions, like the one that I'm running for right now, that we would have less people on the payroll as far as councilmen and commissioners. I don't know how it would work with combining the street department and the highway department, but I'm sure all those issues can be worked out. It takes a lot of cooperation, and people have to accept authority and give authority to people they might not choose to. And that comes back to an issue I think that Mr. Dever mentioned, that there were sometimes personalities involved in things. But I can see where it could be a big help. I know that having lived in the city for many years, and now I live out in the county, that I've seen the two councils talk, well, you can't do that because they're in the county. And then the county comes up and says, you can't do that because they're in the city. And my opinion is, I don't know if they've found out yet, but Connersville is in Fayette County, and Fayette County is where Connersville is. So they need to kind of get it together here. So those are some things to be thought about. And it may not be something that can happen right now, but it might be something that would be considered and people could start thinking.
Okay. Well, I don't think they'll ever stop, but so if the federal and state governments keep sending unfunded mandates down our way to the counties, and the county certainly has a limited amount of ability to raise new revenues, how are you going to continue to keep a balanced budget in the future as times get tough, as times are tough? Let's see, I think it's your turn. Lost track.
I did too. Sorry about that, Daryl. The county's been doing a super job. I've been working with Shirley Wise, who works for the county council, and I've been helping her. So I've seen a lot of the budget works that they've been doing in the last year. And I want to commend our county council for having worked through things and had been able to cut some expenses. And the commissioners have done a good job. And they're trying to transfer money from different funds. And as you say, one of the things that's a big problem is federal mandates. And one of the things with Fayette County is right now we're tearing up Grand Avenue in the city. And the problem there is that's a federal mandate. Those storm sewers have to be separated from the bathroom sewers. So that's a big expense, and we're talking thousands of dollars. But it doesn't seem to matter. They can come down with their mandates and they don't send any money with it, they just send orders. And it's kind of a rough way to go for everybody. But I want to commend the people that have been doing a super job with trying to keep everything straight.
And Howard?
Unfunded federal mandates have been a problem. I've been associated with having to deal with them at the County Highway Department. It's been many years ago when they first enacted new sign dimensions and shapes. Then it required all signs to be reflective and have large letters. Now another federal mandate has come out, at least it was when I left, that all new signs starting in 2015 are supposed to start with capital letters and small case letters from that point on. And, you know, we just don't have the funding for all these federal mandates, you know, when they change them every 5-10 years. And I think it's time that we work toward finding a solution to them and trying to get our thoughts across to our legislatures, both state and federal, that these mandates, as long as they're unfunded, it makes it extremely difficult and puts a burden on the taxpayers to meet these mandates. And I agree with Leota. Leota, I keep calling something else, sorry. But I agree with her that the county council, the county commissioners have done their best to try to deal with them, and I think that we'll have to continue to find creative solutions to deal with any future unfunded mandates.
Okay. If the issue comes up from the zoning board, you will be the final say in it. There have been issues with farmers trying to expand their agricultural operations to allow their children to stay on the farm and to stay in this county. What are your thoughts on the expansion of agricultural operations, including animal agriculture? And it's Howard, your turn.
I've always been, I've been told that Fayette County is considered what they call a urban-rural county, where we have a large kind of urban population living out in the county. But I also believe that the farmers should have a certain amount of leeway to maintain their operations as long as they meet all the guidelines and are taken good care of. There's no problem. I see a lot of CAFOs in my travels as I work for Harvest Land, and the majority of what I've seen are well maintained, and there's very little odor to them. I think by working together and educating everyone that maybe we can expand upon the rural activities of this county to everybody's satisfaction.
Leota?
I know that it makes me happy to have my children close to home, and I don't blame the farmers for wanting their families and to expand agriculture, because that's one of the ways that we can increase revenue in this county. And to say no to an economic development process of any type, whether it's manufacturing or whether it's agricultural, is not a very wise thing to do.
Thank you. So let's wrap up this session. Leota, if you've got any final words you want to say to the voters, why, go right ahead.
I've had a lot of experience in this county. I've owned the Subway restaurants. I worked for the employment office. I put a lot of you to work and got a lot of you jobs while I was at the employment office. I sold Stanley Home products for many years and have had the privilege of being in your home and visiting with you and meeting a lot of people one-on-one. And I just love this town. I love this community. And I want to serve you because I want to see Connersville and Fayette County growing and booming again.
Thank you. Howard?
Well, I've decided to run for commissioner because I believe that I can bring the experience that I have as the county highway supervisor and the years that I've dealt with the various departments at the courthouse and other areas. It's been alluded to by some that I have an agenda or some other hidden motives to this, and I want to set the record straight on that. I do not. That's behind me, and I want to do the very best I can to improve the conditions of this county and keep it fiscally responsible.
Thank you. Well, these are two of the candidates that will be on the ballot on May 6th at the primary. We'll run down a few more not contested races. Will be Judge of Superior Court. The Republican side is James Fraley. And I say Democrat? That's Democrat. On the Republican side is Paul Freed. I'll get it right. And prosecuting attorney, that's an open seat, as is the Judge of Superior Court. On the Superior Court side, Judge Ertl is retiring, so that's an open seat. And Ken Fall, and prosecuting attorney, is not seeking re-election. So Democrat John Bodwell and Republican Betty Jo Jones will be seeking that. Melinda getting her suit off, seeking re-election as county clerk. And she, right now, the Republicans do not have a candidate for that. For county assessor, Kathy Rhodes is seeking re-election on the Republican side, and the Democrats do not have a candidate there. So remember to vote May 6th. And we will be right back with the sheriff candidates.
I've been hearing about a new law requiring voters to present a photo ID.
I wasn't sure exactly what that meant for me.
In most cases, an Indiana driver's license, Indiana ID card, U.S. passport, or military ID card will work.
I have a photo ID, but I know someone who didn't, so I helped them get a free one from the BMV.
I helped my neighbor get a free photo ID. Now we're both ready for Election Day. Are you?
Visit photoid.in.gov. This message brought to you by the Indiana Secretary of State and the Help America Vote Act.
This is Titan 1-4. No signs of life.
Titan 1-4, hold your position.
What do you got?
Unmanned aircraft is identifying enemy sniper.
Copy that. Let's move. Thanks, Reaper 1-1. We got it from here. Sensors coming off target.
Learn more at airforce.com.
We've got the Democratic candidates for sheriff for the May 6th primary. We have Carol McQueen, Danny Hale, and Joey Laughlin. And if I forget somebody in the line of asking questions, just speak up. I've been known to do that, so don't let me forget you. We were going down a list of some of the candidates that are or don't have opposition in the primary. County Auditor Deborah Shaw Kidd is on the Democratic side. The Republicans do not have a candidate as of yet for that. And County Recorder, Democrat Sandy McQuinley and Republican Ruth Nutty are seeking to replace Ann Frost, who is not seeking re-election. So we will start now with the candidates. And Carol, since you're right here, why don't you start telling them a little bit about yourself and why you're seeking the office?
My name is Carol McQueen. My maiden name is Genniger. I am a police officer on the Connersville Police Department. I've been there for 18 and a half years. Before that, I was a jail officer at the Fayette County Sheriff's Department. I am married to Ellis McQueen. I have 3 kids, Cody, Kyle, and Kevin. I have 2 stepdaughters, Tiffany and Tasha. And I am seeking this office because at the time when I worked at the Sheriff's Department, I decided I was going to run for sheriff, and this has been a goal of mine for a long time to serve the community.
Thank you. Danny?
Hi there, my name is Danny Hale. I graduated from high school in 1972. I got married to my wife Linda in 1973. I've been married for 40 years. I have 2 kids, Brian and Brittany, 2 grandchildren, Caden and Kylie. I worked at D&M for 19 to 20 years before they closed. And then I worked for IMI for 6 years, Irving Materials. And then I hired in the jail in 2000, and I've been there for 14 years now. I worked in the jail for 6 years, and now I'm in civil process, and I serve all the papers for the county.
Thank you. And Joey?
My name's Joey Laughlin. I'm a lifelong Fayette County resident. I'm a 14-year member of the Fayette County Sheriff's Department. I'm currently the detective with the Sheriff's Department and hold the rank of lieutenant. I'm a member of Garrison Creek Baptist Church. I'm the son of Joe and Linda Laughlin. Sadly, my dad passed away about a year and a half ago. My wife Amanda and I have been married for 6 years. We have 3 beautiful children, Shayna, Jacob, and Eli. And I served at the Rough Drug Task Force for 6 years and was also the project director. And I believe my experience with Rough and being the director of that has given me the leadership qualities that I believe that the sheriff needs to possess.
Okay, thank you. Well, let's start out with money, because that's, I think, where everything goes. One of the questions that was sent in by a reader of the newspaper, we do know that county has a budget crunch as well as the city. What are your thoughts maybe on combining the county sheriff's department with the city police department? And Danny, it'd be your turn to go first.
Well, I've thought about that. I just don't see how we could do that, because there's so much a pay difference, and I just don't. You'd have to raise everybody's pay up to make it equal to the city. There's so much difference in it, so I just don't think it's a very good idea at this time. It's going to cost you more money to do it that way than it would.
Okay, Joey.
I believe I'd have to look at all the facts. To hit on a little bit of what Danny said, a new sheriff's deputy compared to a city police officer that's been on 1 year, there's a $15,000 pay difference. There would have to be, I guess the deputies would have to be raised up to that equal pay. That presents a little bit of an issue. I think seniority is going to be an issue. Where do guys fall? I have 14 years on. That would put me near the end of the line with some of the city guys. So, but I would have to see the facts and really look. Anything that's going to benefit this community, I'm in favor of. But I would have to look at all the facts and statistics and see what the benefit would be before I could make an informed decision.
Okay. And Carol?
I think I agree with the fact that you'd have to look at the facts, you'd have to look at the budget and see if it would actually be a benefit to the city and county to do that. You may find out that it isn't that beneficial to anyone. I'm not saying that I would be opposed to it. You're still going to have a sheriff for custody, and you're probably still going to have a chief for the patrol division. So it's not something I would say I would be opposed to, but I think there's a lot of obstacles to that before anything like that can be put into place.
The jail is usually at capacity, maybe a little bit over, at one time a lot over. Is there any way to reduce that, working with the judges, of course, to reduce that jail population, maybe through work release or something, so that you can get that jail population down, maybe start taking state prisoners again, earn a little money for the county? At one time that was a fairly good source of income. And Joey, I believe it's your turn.
Okay. Yeah, I believe I've looked into that, getting the DOC program back. One time the DOC program, we made $450,000 that went into the county general fund, which is obviously a lot of money. That has been reduced. Last year, I believe it was around $140,000. There are things that we need to do. The jail liaison for the state has told us that we have to be at 80% capacity. The jail holds 114 inmates at capacity. As everyone knows, we've been over capacity. Some of that was due to the drug bust. We had a large number of people in jail. I've worked closely with the prosecutor's office. I believe with drug enforcement, arrests are one part of the solution. I think that treatment programs should be available. A lot of these 19, 20, 21-year-old kids that have addiction problems do need treatment, and work release is something we have to look at. I was doing the figures today. If we can get back, we would be able to hold 15 DOC prisoners. That would allow us, after $35 a day, that would be a benefit of $195,000 that we could put back in the county general fund, and that's something, if elected, that I plan to work very hard on.
Carol.
I don't have a problem with the DOC program. I do feel like we need to take care of our problems here at home, and I understand that it is a way to raise money for the county, but I'm not sure, do we still have expenses that come out of that $35, right? So it's not a straight $35 a day per inmate. And I think we need to look at our citizens here, and we need to look at what they need and what programs they need. And there are ways to have the judges do DOC sentencing and different types of sentencing to lower the population at the jail, but I would want to concentrate on what our problems are here.
Okay. And Danny?
Well, I think jobs, by not having jobs, has caused our theft rate and everything to go up. And as far as a jail, I would like to work closer with the judges. I don't feel like we should house misdemeanors. Maybe put them on the work release program, and go. That would cut down on inmates and stuff.
Something that was said reminded me that if one of you is elected in the fall, starting July 1st, there's a new law that changes a lot of the how you're going to be housing. DOC is not going to house probably D felonies, I think it is. I've not read the fine print. Have you had a chance to look at that? And I don't know whether maybe you have or not. I just happened to think of it was something that was said, and how that would affect the overall operations, because I mean it's going to have an effect somehow. I'm not sure. Carol?
There's a lot of things that the prosecutor can do to change the charges that are charged. I haven't really looked into that much. There's a lot of other things that are changing as far as our jobs go on the way that crimes are classed and stuff like that. So I don't really have a good answer for that. Other than I think if we can all work together, probably wouldn't see much of a change.
Okay, Danny.
Well, I think anything that would help get the population down in the jail, that would cut down like medical costs and a lot of that stuff. So.
And Joey?
As far as that goes, like I said, I have a good working relationship with the prosecutor's office. Obviously, that's going to change. There is going to be a new prosecutor. But I think that's the job of the sheriff. We do that on a daily basis, work with the judge and the prosecutor's office on sentencing with inmates. A lot of that's medical issues. This just presents a new challenge that we'll be able to work together and take care of.
The sheriff has a lot of responsibilities, so in many cases, particularly in larger counties, maybe more so than here in Fayette County, is more of an administrator. What have you done to show the voters that you can handle a budget for both the jail and the enforcement side, and handle people? Because there's an awful lot of people that you will be under you that you'll have to supervise, and I think it's Danny's turn.
Well, like I said, I've worked in a factory for almost 20 years, and there I was I was in charge of 110 people sometimes. And after I left D&M, I worked at IMI, and I was the supervisor over the plant there. And I ran that plant, and that was a multi-million-dollar plant. And then from there I come to the jail, and I've been at the jail for 14 years now. And I deal with the public civil process, and I deal with the public every day. I'm out knocking on doors through the county, and I probably serve 10 or 15,000 papers to individuals. So I'm out with the public every day.
Okay, and Joey?
Like I said before, when I was the director of the Rough Drug Task Force, I was responsible for that budget. I wrote that grant, took care of that. Now, we're talking about a $40,000 annual budget compared to a $1.7 million budget. There's a little difference there, but there was a lot of people involved in that. There were 5 other agencies that you had to make sure were taken care of that had money to do their drug enforcement. I'm the lieutenant there. I'm the 3rd highest ranking person in the department. There are times, quite a lot of times, that I may be in charge and have to make decisions. I've been working with the sheriff the last few years and really trying to learn these things. A lot of negotiations as far as medical costs. He's been able to reduce medical costs quite a bit. It's a Medicaid rate times 4%. That's saved the county a lot of money. I believe those things put me in a good position to be able to step in January 1st, 2015 and lead the Sheriff's Department.
And Carol?
Well, since I've been on the police department, I have been a supervisor. And like I said before, I've been thinking about this for 20 years. So I've spent a lot of time thinking about how I would handle situations. I don't know what my rank or what my number is on the police department, but I'm pretty high up as far as the rank goes with 18 and a half years on. So I am in a position a lot of times to make decisions. I'm currently assigned to the detective division, so I work criminal cases every day, and I make a lot of decisions with those, and I would call myself a creative type leader. I like to work with people. I'm not really one to boss everybody around unless I have to. I'm one to kind of let everybody join in and everybody have a part in it. As far as the financial, the budget goes, I think the budget is what it is. The council gives us what we can spend, and you can't go over that. I don't frivolously spend at home. I don't think I still said that right, but hey, I'm the chief financial officer at home. So I was also born and raised on a farm, so I know about doing things. You might as well do it right. You don't have to overspend, and I know how to shop around, and I certainly know what it's like to just have what you need.
Okay. And maybe the last question. Right now, if I understand it right, the Sheriff's Department really doesn't have somebody on the Rough Drug Task Force. Would you try to find a way to put somebody back there? And because as we see in the paper almost every day, seems like a drug arrest of some kind. And what is it, Joey? I'm glad you guys keep track.
I happen to get that question a lot because I was there for 6 years, and I still get phone calls daily. I still assist with some things from time to time. Drug enforcement is a huge thing for me. I enjoyed my time there immensely. I think we did some good. Obviously, we still have a very large drug problem. My time there, we made 255 arrests that I was directly involved in. We were able to implement video equipment that changed the game with these cases. We went from audio-only buys to video equipment, and a lot of that was me working with the prosecutor's office to get that established. Drug enforcement not only takes care of the drug issues, but I just went to the You Are Not Alone heroin rally Saturday and heard a lot of the people there. There were ladies from Crossroads and Richmond that shared their stories about addiction. And I think my experience with Rough, the arrests that I made, and I also see the other side of addiction, and I believe that police officers are there to make arrests. If someone is breaking the law, if they're dealing drugs, they need to be arrested. But we have to have programs ready for them when they're housed in our jail, so they have the opportunity to try to change. But As the sheriff, we are down 2 deputies right now. We don't have an extra guy. If I'm elected, we will have the opportunity to hire another deputy. There is a great pool within our jail that are chomping at the bit to get that opportunity. That will free up an officer. We will assign somebody to the Rough Drug Task Force. I will be involved in that because I'd like to get that up and going, and I think my experience there will be vital in getting it going again.
Carol.
Drug enforcement is an absolute priority for me, and I would see that someone was assigned to the Rough Drug Task Force. Electing me as sheriff adds another law enforcement officer to the roster at the sheriff's department, and that is, like I said, that's a priority for me. I feel like we can, as a community, we can work really hard to bring a lot of jobs to town, but if we don't have 345 people that can pass drug tests to get those jobs, it's not making us very attractive as a community. And we do have a drug problem. And I see it every day. I think I have 12 open cases on my desk right now, and 11 of them revolve around drugs. So all we do, if we don't do proactive drug enforcement, all the detectives are doing is cleaning up the mess. So I see it every day, I work it every day, and it would absolutely be a priority for me.
Thank you. Danny?
Yes, that's definitely a priority. But like Joey said, we are 2 deputies short right now, and manpower is a big issue right now. So that's something that we'd have to look into when I got to that.
Okay, let's give you another chance to look the voters in the eye and tell them why they should vote for you. Carol?
Well, like I said, I've been a police officer for 18 and a half years here in the city. I was born and raised here in the city. I have a strong connection to Fayette County, and I'm young enough to work, and I would be a working sheriff. My kids are old enough that I feel like this is my time. I've been thinking about it for a lot of years, and I've been working towards it for a lot of years, and I would appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Danny.
Well, this actually is my last time that I would be able to run for anything at my age. I'm 60 years old now, and I worked at the Sheriff's Department for 14 years, and it's just another stepping stone for me, and I figured this would be a nice way to retire.
And Joey.
For the past 14 years, I've proudly served the citizens of this county as a member of the Fayette County Sheriff's Department. I've served as a jail officer, a road deputy, drug detective, and now the criminal detective. When I was hired as a deputy, I told the sheriff, I'm here for good. I've stayed with the Sheriff's Department through ups and downs, through good and bad, but it's because I believe in the people that work at the Sheriff's Department, and I believe in this community. I believe that I'm the best equipped person to run the Sheriff's Department based on my experience there. I will be a working sheriff. My wife and I have had the discussion. This isn't a go sit behind the desk and take it easy job. This is the workload increases 2 times, 3 times as much. I'm ready for that. I'm excited if things work out to be there. Humbly ask for your support and your vote on May 6th, and thank you very much for your time.
And thank you, Carol Gettinger McQueen, Danny Hale, and David Joey Laughlin. And it is Daniel on the ballot, so you know. So, and we'll be back in just a minute with the Republican candidates for the primary for sheriff. Looking down at a few of the other officers, county surveyor Warren Sudoff on the Democratic side. Republicans do not have a candidate. And then we have the county council districts. County Council District 1, Craig Pennington, a Democrat, and he will be seeking to unseat Michael Winter, the Republican, in District 1. District 2, Dale Strong, the incumbent. Republicans do not have a candidate. District 3, Charlene Grugoski. I've said this before. I've written it several times. Maybe I never said it. Grugoski. I need something to drink, maybe. And Shirley Risch-Wise, the incumbent on the Republican side. Jim Reese, District 4 Democrat, versus the incumbent Mark Nobby. So we will be back in just a moment with the Republican candidates. Thank you.
I am for the child who lives in motels, cars, and shelters, now in foster care, a group home. where he sleeps not on a bed, but on a temporary cot. He is the child I am for. I am a CASA volunteer. I am you.
I've been hearing about a new law requiring voters to present a photo ID.
I didn't know how to register to vote.
I had questions about finding my polling place.
I had to vote absentee, and I didn't know how, so I called the Secretary of State's office.
I contacted my county clerk.
I logged on to the Secretary of State's website and found answers to all my questions.
I'm ready for Election Day. Are you?
Visit sos.in.gov for answers to questions on voting in Indiana. This message was brought to you by the Indiana Secretary of State with funds from the Help America Vote Act.
And we're back, and we have the Republican candidates for sheriff in the May 6th primary. And we have David Counselor, James, you go by James or Jim?
James.
James. And James Free, those are the candidates on the Republican side. We will give you just a little brief time to tell the voters a little bit about yourself and why you're seeking the office. Dave.
Well, I'm David J. Counselor, and I'm presently the Chief of Police on the Connersville Police Department, where I've been a member almost 34 years, coming in June. And I have 2 children who live in Alaska, Julie and Jeremy, and I have 4 grandchildren, 2 girls and 2 boys. And I'm seeking the office of sheriff because it's been a goal of mine also. I've thought about it for a long time. I have ran before, and of course I won a primary once and I got beat once. So you know, it's something I've always thought about doing. I'm going to retire next year, and I thought I would. I'm not dead yet. I thought I'd go ahead and continue on if I could and see what could happen.
Okay. James.
My name is James Holbrook. I graduated from Connersville High School, went in the United States Air Force for 4 years, came out, went to Anderson University, got a Bachelor of Arts degree in Administration of Criminal Justice. Then I worked for Montgomery Wards for a couple years as a manager, and then I moved back here, went on the police department. I was in the Air Force Reserve for 20 years and about 4 years in the Army and National Guard Reserve, retired as a Master Sergeant. The Air Force time was also security police. I've got 6 children, 1 son that's in the United States Air Force, and 1 stepson that lives here in town. My oldest daughter lives in Cincinnati. My next daughter lives in Cincinnati. My youngest son lives in Cincinnati. And my youngest stepson is in the United States Navy, and my youngest son also served during the first 2 years of the second Iraq War. I was a manager, or when I was in college, I had to do a internship at the Blackford County Circuit Court, and I was on the police department for 22 years as a captain, and when I retired I was a captain. And then the following year I came back as the chief for 4 years, and that's pretty much it.
Thank you. And Jim?
Jim Free. My wife Paula and I, we lived in Fayette County all of our life. We have 2 daughters. Celebrating our 37th wedding anniversary come this June. We're members of the Glenwood United Methodist Church. My wife, she's been the guidance secretary at the high school for 21 years now. I retired from the Postal Service in February 2012 with 31 and a half years with the federal government. Was in the Navy for 4 years as a gunner's mate. And from 1982 to 1984, I was a deputy sheriff here in Fayette County. Went through the jail officer training school, drug and narcotic investigation, and graduated from the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy. And it's just been an ambition of mine all of my life, ever since I was a young boy, that I had the ambition just to be the sheriff here in Fayette County.
The Democrat candidates, if I leave one of you out, one of you, just speak up. Don't. I want to make sure y'all get a chance to speak. So we will start with James. With the budget crunch facing the city and county governments, what would be your thoughts on combining city, police, county, sheriff's department?
I've thought about it both ways. I don't think it'd be that bad an idea maybe in the future, but with the budgets the way they are and manpower the way they are, I don't see how you can combine both of them and really cover the county and a city efficiently. Because like they said before us, the pay on the county deputies is so much lower than the city. You'd have to bring that up, and with the budgets the way they are, I don't see any feasible way to really do that.
Okay. Jim?
I've never really thought of anything like that. We're always just used to having the sheriff's department in the city. I think no matter what you do, you're still going to have a budget crunch, no matter what. But as far as, you just have to try it, I guess, and go through the figures and just see how it would work out.
Okay.
I wouldn't be against it, but.
Okay. And Dave?
Well, it didn't work in Marion County, Indianapolis. The Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department was made up of Marion County deputy sheriffs. They took them on and combined them both, and now they got like 4 different pension plans. They spent more money trying to convert over in uniforms, cars, and all this. Sheriff's Department's got a little bit different function than the City Police Department. City Police Department is basically out here answering calls, enforcing laws, and this type of thing, where the Sheriff's Department does more. They have one section of doing that in the county, but they serve warrants and different types of paperwork, and also they take care of the court as far as security and stuff like this also. And also they take care of the jail. So they're 2 different functions, and it's been tried, like I said, here in Indianapolis, and they've had all kind of problems. And lately, if you notice Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department, you can slowly see it go back to Indianapolis Police Department, the IPD. I noticed up in Marion County that the sheriff up there, who I know, he is slowly getting deputy sheriffs going patrolling again on the streets. And so all that money that was spent up in Marion County on a larger scale to do that is slowly going back the way it was. So I'm against it. There's 2 different entities there. There's 2 different functions, and also there's the pension systems, and also it was brought up earlier about the pay scales to bring the deputy sheriffs up to the city police what they make. That's going to be a big cost there. Not that I don't think the deputy sheriffs they ought to be making more money, but I understand what the situation is. Being in county government for 15 years as the emergency management director, I know how the county budgets are, I know how the county works, and I know how the city works, and they do work and function just a little bit differently.
Okay, thank you. Well, the Fayette County Jail often is at capacity, and on several occasions over capacity. Is there any way to reduce that local jail population, maybe through work release or some other way, working with the judges, so that the county might once again house state prisoners and bring a little money back into the county? And I think it's your turn, Jim.
Nice thing would be to happen if people don't commit crimes to go to jail in the first place. I would have to, elected sheriff, go down there and look at the figures, and like I say, it's been a while since I've been there. And work release is fine if the judges, and that would be fine with me. It's mostly up to your judges and prosecutors, and whatever I'd work with them, However, they wanted to work to lower it down.
Okay. Thank you. Dave?
At the present time, there has been laws passed to reduce sentencing on some D felonies, and you mentioned a little while ago that has taken place where there will be less time served, and that's something that's it's not just here in Fayette County, it's everywhere. A lot of people who have been arrested for different drug incidents, possession or selling, whatever, they have reduced that. So I think you're going to see some of that anyway happening. And also the prosecutors do have a lot of leeway there, and the judges to assist in doing something like that too. But I think the law that they just passed, and I think it does take effect, I think July 1st, will hopefully take care of some of that problem.
Okay. James?
Yeah, with the prosecutor's office, a lot of time people think that you can just go in and do whatever you want with a sentence, and you can't do that. There's the parameters. As long as the state changes it where you can let these people out, or like in some petty cases, theft at Walmart or something, issue them a ticket instead of even taking them to jail and confining them for the weekend or whatever. That would help. But as long as the statutes mandate a minimum amount of time, you're still going to have a problem with overcrowding.
Okay. Well, the sheriff is in a large way an administrator. He has people, he has a budget. Kind of what's your experience with budgets and with managing people? And I believe it's your turn, Chief.
Well, my record speaks for itself because I manage a budget and I manage people, and it does take some working around things and cutting things here, what have you. Also, I've been kind of a scavenger over my my past in trying to make things work that might be, well, for instance, the city of Connersville, we haven't been buying new police cars. We've been buying used police cars, and we pick up, for instance, we buy like 4 or 5 police cars used, equipped with all the latest equipment on it, for what one police car equipped would cost. So that's some of the ways you cut the budget, or in far as your new equipment, stuff like this, and they're good used vehicles, by the way. When we get these vehicles, they got state-of-art equipment on it and stuff. But going on into the rest of the budget, it's something you just really got to watch, and you got to make some transfers. And sometimes it's nice if your budget for something and you use all your money, that's what it's for. But under these times, we've been are tightening up our belts. And unfortunately, the city did go into an emergency financial thing. But the only thing is, folks, the only people got affected there was your emergency services. Well, I'll take that back. All your city departments, but like with the police and fire and EMS, they basically got their clothing allowance and their overtime taken away. And that's something that's the two biggest people who have the budget, 2 biggest budgets for the whole city. So we're all cutting back, and them 2 items there, the clothing allowance and the overtime, was quite a bit, and that's going to help a lot. And hopefully we'll maybe get that back someday. So yeah, and then when I worked for the county, same way with managing. I had a low budget over there anyway, but we tried to make do with what we got and made things work.
Thank you. James?
Yeah, I had when I was chief, I had the budget and stuff. We didn't hire anybody at the time. I was hired for 4 years, but in the military, I had the squadron, and I had to take care of the equipment and supply and stuff like for the men there. And the administrative part of it is, a lot of it you depend on, like the city clerk or county clerk and some of the secretaries, and you go through your budget, and they've been there usually before the chief and after the chiefs go, and they'll show you what you can cut, and I would go through and pick out what, and can we do this, can we do that. The budgets are so narrowly defined now with the amount of money that comes in. Administratively, it just takes a few questions, and you can pretty much stay within your budget. And like with the sheriff's department, I'm not familiar with their budget that much, but there's not much, from talking to some of the council and stuff over there for the county, there's not much fat to be cut over there.
Thank you. Jim?
Working with the budget from 1996 to the year 2000, I was on the Fayette County School Board. And I think the budget then was $22 to $23 million. And in them 4 years, I learned a lot about working the budget, you know. And as far as supervising men, when I was in the Navy, I supervised 15 men on 2 5-inch 38 gun mounts, and the ammunition and the gun locker that we had the machine guns and everything in like that, stored in there. And also in the Navy, you had a budget that you had to follow too. So I just have to work with the county commissioners and commissioners and the council to do whatever I can to save the people of Fayette County money.
Thank you. Currently, no one at the Sheriff's Department is on the Rough Drug Task Force. For a while, there was one person from the Sheriff's Department, one person from the City Police Department working that. If elected, will you try to get someone back on the Rough Drug Task Force? And we all know the drug problem in the county and city. What's your thoughts on how to maybe make a dent in that? And I believe, James, you're next.
Okay. Like Joey said, if he goes in, or that open up another slot, and you'd have the extra slot for Rough Task Force member, and that's fine. It just depends on your manpower. You may have to actually apply somebody part-time for that position. But yeah, the drugs are extremely bad in this town and only getting worse with the economy. So yeah, I would put one in there if it's feasible at all. I mean, it just depends strictly on the budget, and like you said, though, you should be able to hire somebody, and they do have another opening over there, I think, that they can maybe hire somebody and go into that position.
Okay. Jim?
I'd be all for it, but you'd have to get elected and get in there and make the decision with your manpower. If I was elected, we wouldn't lose any deputies. There'd be enough that there's a possibility that I could just put one right in there as soon as I would get elected. I know the drugs are bad here in Fayette County, and I'm all for doing whatever I can as sheriff to help eliminate it.
Thank you. Dave?
Yes, definitely the county needs to put another man over in the drug task force. I got one man over there working by himself now, and I occasionally have another city officer go over and help him. But you put another man over there out of the county, he'd have to be a full-time drug officer. Another thing I want to say is, you know, there's grant money out there to help people who are in jails. I don't know how many people know this, but you got to, for even going to prison, for a person that's been convicted of a drug crime and they go to prison, they get no rehab. Not unless they've got to have like 3 years in prison to even get rehab after the 3 years. In the county jails, and I'm not speaking for all of them, I know ours don't, and I know a few don't also, but there's grant money available to get drug rehab started in our local jails, especially Fayette County. I've known about this for quite a while. The thing is if you would give them the tools and maybe try to help them get off of it, that's somebody's going to have to really want to get off drugs if they want to get off drugs. That's their decision. But if you give the tools out there and with the grant money and start in the county a drug rehab program in the jail, which is the money's for, that would be a start. Now, if they chose not to do that and they chose to go ahead and do what they're doing, you know, so be it. All we do, all the drug task force does, and all the county and city and state, all we do is mow the grass. And all we say, we cut the grass and it comes right back. And but I really believe that a lot of our solutions to, you know, I don't think you'll ever totally wipe it out, but to narrow it down, I think we have to start at a young age, like the old DARE program used to be that government did away with. Some departments still carry that on. And I know a lot of some city officers and county officers were real big in DARE back in the program, but we need to get that back in the schools too to help with that. So drug task force, yes, a man that definitely needs to go over there from the county full time, and then occasionally have other city and county officers assisting. But that's my thoughts on the drug situation.
Okay, thanks. Dave brought up about the new law that's going to change the whole entire criminal code. It takes effect July 1st. I think the jury's still out maybe on how it's going to affect. One of the worries originally was that it would put more prisoners from DOC down to the locals. I don't know. Jim, it's your turn to go first, and Dave, maybe you could add a little more to what you said earlier. So, Jim, have you had a chance to examine that law that was just passed and will be taking effect July 1st?
No, I haven't had a chance to examine the law, but whatever they figure out, I'll work with it and do the best that I can for the citizens of Fayette County.
Okay. Dave?
Well, there's two ways to look at it. One, we're making less people in jail, in prisons, and some of the attitude is that well, you know, they go out here and they're getting away with it because they're going to get smacked on the hand. They're not going to get nothing, no time, and all this. Well, you know, plea bargains happen every day, and I think the way the prisons and the local jails are filling up, and hearing the numbers on the capacity we are, and I know sometimes they double up over there, depending. I think it could be a good thing, but it just have to be monitored and watched and see what happens with it. But I know there's been some pros and cons both when that law passed. I happened to be at a conference here not long ago, and that was brought up, and you had some mixed feelings in there with law enforcement about it. So I think we need to give it a shot and see what happens. I mean, we don't have a whole lot of choice. It's law. But I'm kind of an optimistic person, and I think that you never know, it might work.
Okay. And James?
Yeah, I haven't really looked. I've seen bits and pieces of it. With the push to legalize marijuana and stuff, I think you'll see a lot, well, not a lot, but some reduction in jails. But some of the stuff they can issue, if they can issue tickets for minor misdemeanors, or even up maybe to depend on the Class A misdemeanor if it's not violent and stuff, I don't see where it serves any purpose to keep them in a cell. And most people that get in trouble, we have a lot of repeats here, and I've dealt with them like Dave has forever. And but a lot of people, you never see them again. If they're treated decent enough and they get out and they don't get in that system where they start learning to be even nastier than what they are, it may be a good thing. But like I said, I haven't really reviewed the whole thing. I just see bits and pieces of it. And once they get it into the system where it's in effect, then I'll set it to my desk there at the prosecutor's office and look at it and see, you know, if I could form a better opinion. That's all I can say on it.
Okay. Well, thank you. That's the end of the questioning. Now you get one last chance to look into the camera and the voters and tell them why they should vote for you. Dave?
Well, my law enforcement career started when I was in the United States Army. I spent 4 years in the military police back in the late 70s. I went on the Carnesville Police Department. I've been here, will be soon to be 34 years. Through that time, I've went through the ranks of patrolman, was a detective for a while, corporal, sergeant, lieutenant, captain. I held all them positions, and I've been chief now for, this is my 7th year. I also was, from 1988 through the end of 2003, I was your emergency management director. Started out civil defense, went to emergency management. I think it's emergency management, Homeland Security today, but it's basically the same thing. And I got an education there a lot about how city works and the county works and how much different they do work individually. And I understand the county's issues and problems. I know they haven't changed much since I was there, and I understand the city's working in the city. I was part-time, by the way, for the county. But I believe in experienced, competent leadership, and that's what you'll get if you vote for me. And I've been here all my life except my time in the service, and I appreciate your support and your vote. Thank you.
James?
My background has been 90% administrative in the Air Force, and like Dave, I went up through the ranks and was chief. And the administrative part, I've got a great deal of experience in it, both here and although I haven't had an administrative position as far as being over other people or the prosecutor's office, I still am capable and extremely capable of being a sheriff, and I think I would be excellent at it with my excuse me, my background and being well, I don't want to go into that.
Thank you.
Well, we'll drop it there.
And Jim.
Like I said, it's always been my ambition to be sheriff of Fayette County. And if elected, I'll do everything I can to keep the budget low and serve the people of Fayette County. I have the backing of my family, and it would be an honor and a privilege to be your sheriff of Fayette County. Thank you.
And thank you, David Counselor, James Holbrook, Jim Freed.
Thank you.
And they're on the ballot on the May 6th primary. And we just ask that you get out and vote that day. Polls will be open from 6 to 6. If you have a question about where maybe your polling location is going to be, you can call the Fayette County Clerk's office. And just please get out and vote. We've had some years where we've had very low turnouts. This year there's not a lot of interest at the very top of the ticket, no governor, no senator. So, but still, we have some very important elections this year, and we just ask that you get out and vote. And we thank you. And we thank Channel 3 for having us tonight. I'm Darrell Smith with the Connersville News-Examiner. Good night.